Thank you. So usually, this presentation is done by Ben Rao of Meta, but this year, I will be taking this presentation, and thank you for that. So let's go to the next slide. This is basically a way of bringing PeeringDB to fore so that everyone would understand what's going on with PeeringDB, what is happening newly, and what are the next steps with respect to PeeringDB. So for those of us that may not know, PeeringDB is a non-governmental organization, a non-profit organization that is mostly a tool that helps us advocate the growth of interconnection by creating like an exposure to our networks, to our data centers, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. So for those of us that are yet to register on PeeringDB, from here in Nigeria, a lot of networks are yet to come on PeeringDB. So why we keep doing this every year is to expose PeeringDB to every single one of us. So if you don't already have a PeeringDB account, from a data center perspective, I think all the data centers are already on PeeringDB. If you're an ISP and you have an ASN, please go to PeeringDB, create an account, register, and start sharing the facility where you are. There are networks that only use PeeringDB as a decision-making when they want to peer, when they want to interconnect. There are also people who use PeeringDB to automate their configuration processes. There are people who leverage on PeeringDB alone for authentication into their network. So if you want to sign it, I don't know if you've ever witnessed where you're trying to sign up to a platform and they ask you to use your Google account. So there are networks that actually use PeeringDB to actually create authentication into their platform. And again, many of us use PeeringDB as a marketing tool to expose ourselves to the rest of the global community. Next slide, please. So to access PeeringDB, there are a couple of ways you could do that. The easiest one that everyone knows about is to go on the website, peeringdb.com, create an account, run it, do what you have to do, and so on and so forth. Also, for those of us that have very unique needs that don't necessarily need human intervention, you can also do an API to PeeringDB and go from there. Next slide, please. I mentioned earlier that PeeringDB is a non-profit and non-governmental organization. What it means is that there are a couple of volunteers who come together to actually make this work. So it is registered in the United States, and you have membership that is allowed from corporate entities. Individuals are allowed to register. You could also register, a group of people can also come to register under a corporate organization. So different people could get on board. The platform itself is actually registered as a non-profit in the US, like I already mentioned. One of the things I like about the PeeringDB platform is that even though it is a non-governmental organization, it has come a long way to ensuring a healthy financial reserve to make sure that its long-term objectives are met. It's so funny because after AFPIF, when Ben did this very presentation, someone actually walked up to me to say, what does that mean? So basically what it means is that for organizations that use this for authentication on their platform, you are not worried that tomorrow this platform could go down and then suddenly your users can't access your platform any longer. So this platform is designed for long-term and sustainability. Next slide, please. So the way PeeringDB works is that because it's run by volunteers, whom I will show shortly, from a product perspective, from an outreach perspective, and so on and so forth, there is also a product development flow. Sometimes people walk up to us and say, look, why can't you do this? Why is this not working? Why can't this feature be activated like 2 years ago, and so on and so forth? The reason is because there is a flow to the development of those processes and things that you talk about. Everyone is encouraged to actually report issues. Everyone is encouraged to recommend new features, new things that we should add on PeeringDB. However, all the issues are tracked, so you can actually go there and file any issue, any bug that you identified. When you put it there, the product committee will pick up that request, look into it, put it on stack, and start acting on it based on priority, time, and some of these other factors that come to bear. Once that is done, the feature is developed and rolled out. Next slide, please. Updates. So basically, new updates come out every now and then, and we're very happy to sit down here to talk about these updates as they roll out. One of the recent is the change in the user interface. If you've been using PeeringDB for years, there are people that have been on PeeringDB for 20 years, 15 years, and so on and so forth, you would have noticed that there is a recent change on the user interface. Also, the new KMZ feature. As a network provider, you can actually go on PeeringDB and download your information as a KMZ. You also have the improved search. So it used to be a simple search, but now you can actually do a filtered search depending on what you are trying to achieve, either from you are looking for a facility, or you are looking for a particular network, or you are looking for an internet exchange that is on PeeringDB, or all. We also have beta testing now, which is basically where new features are tested before they go live. And the good thing is that all of us can actually participate in this. So you could go on the platform, log in, and try out the new features that have been released on beta testing. And most importantly, the call for volunteers. PeeringDB, like I mentioned, is a volunteer-led organization. Every single person that currently keeps PeeringDB alive is a volunteer, either from a product perspective, who basically do the support. Next slide, please. That basically do the support and so on and so forth, to outreach and many other things that they do. These are people who actually keep it alive, me and you, and a couple of other people. So it made sense for all of us sitting down here. If you have a spare time, an hour of your time in a week, 2 hours of your time in a week, why don't you come on PeeringDB, go there, register as a volunteer, they will evaluate you and then get you on board so that you can also start helping contribute to keeping this platform that we all use alive. So we talked about user interface. Before now, when you search or when you use PeeringDB on your mobile versus on your laptop, you usually see this difference, in terms of presentation. But right now, that has been upgraded. So from a mobile perspective, you have a better presentation on mobile, which you also get on the PC. And then the dashboard options and lazy loading for faster access. Next slide. New KMZ, which I already mentioned. So the facility portion of PeeringDB, which is basically used by the data centers mostly, and some other organizations, has been up for a very long time now. But right now, what has happened is that you can actually have, like what you see on the screen there, an actual map of connectivity from network providers across all their POPs in those different facilities. And that can actually be exported as a KMZ file, or when you export it, you can also import it into Google Maps and then have this pictorial view. This is a wonderful feature that if you are not using right now as a connectivity provider, you should please try it out. Next, please. Okay, I mentioned that search is getting better. So before, it used to be a simple search, but right now we have an advanced search where you can actually put in specific tags or specific search criteria to actually pull out the information you're looking for. You could search, based on location. You could search objects, operators, and all of that, and have more refined results. Okay, so there have been some of these new features, especially on the search, which was built to be pushed out in January. So by January, we expect to see some new features that people have raised through the product committee. These have been fixed, and most of them will be rolled out in January. And the legacy search, which I talked about, which used to be the simple search, will be removed in 2025. So we could have a more better search. We are also removing, we are now automatically removing networks whose ASNs are reclaimed by RIRs. So what this means is that you could go to your RRI, which is basically the Afrinix and LACNIC and the RIPes and so on and so forth, that issue your ASN. You get an ASN. You come on PeeringDB, you register that ASN, is yours, you do your transaction. Sometime down the line, that ASN is retrieved for whatever reason, then because you're on PeeringDB, PeeringDB allows you to continue to stay on PeeringDB to do your transactions. What this now means is that the moment your ASN is reclaimed for whatever reason, PeeringDB would also remove that network because it means you don't own that network. It could have been assigned to a new person, and that new person would find it difficult being on PeeringDB because of that conflict. ASNs are supposed to be unique to networks, which is why this feature is very important. Next, please. Good. This is another very important new thing that has been released on PeeringDB, and I want every single PeeringDB user here to please pay attention. Multi-factor authentication has now been enabled on PeeringDB. And by next year, it will be made compulsory that anyone that is on PeeringDB must activate minimum 2 factors. First factor being your basic username and password, which you use to log into the platform. A second, you have an option of the MFA, the one that comes with the Authenticator app from either Google or Microsoft or whoever is your provider, that app where you scan and keep the code. You could do that, or you could also have a passkey. Any of the 2 works, but you must have a minimum of 2 factors before you continue to do transactions on PeeringDB. We are appealing that if you're currently on PeeringDB, go on PeeringDB and enable multi-factor authentication as quickly as possible. By next year, I'm not so sure the exact date and month right now, but sometime in next year, I believe early next year, this will be enforced. And if you have not enabled this at that point in time, you may not be able to access your account. So to avoid a situation where everyone is suddenly reaching out to support, I can't access my account, I can't do this, I can't do this, it makes sense that we quickly go on PeeringDB and enable multi-factor authentication. Next, please. Okay, security. So there have been a few security minor security reports. Like I said, everyone is welcome to actually share these things when you observe them, either a new feature or a security issue or whatever it is that you observed. The guys at the back end will look into it and get it fixed. And one of the good things, which is why we think everybody should participate, is just more of an encouragement. So to say thank you when you identify these things and report them, PeeringDB would start giving out minor gifts just to say thank you, for reporting this, for observing this, and telling us about it. Next. Okay. We've also had these reports where people say, look, you guys are not talking about the new thing and so on and so forth. PeeringDB actually looks backwards. And the reason is because the process of reporting issues and fixing issues actually takes a process. So when that is done, it makes sense to actually look back at all those actions that have been done, which is why the reports are actually retrospective. So it's basically go back to what was done in the past and so on and so forth, and those information are uploaded on the blog for people to actually view. Next, please. So I already mentioned this. Please, beta testers are welcomed. Get on the platform, contact us, pc@peeringdb.com, to be part of beta testing and then actually test out new features before they go live. Next, please. Call for volunteers. I also talked about this. Personally, as a Nigerian, I'm taking this personally now. I would love to see more people from this country actually volunteer to participate and volunteer at PeeringDB. To do that is very simple. Admin.com at list.peeringdb.com. That's for admin committee. If you want to be part of the admin committee, if you don't know, maybe you forget that, reach out to me. Ben is still here. Ben is my boss from PeeringDB. You can reach out to him. We'll figure out a way of getting you on PeeringDB to volunteer. Next. So these are all the people who have been sponsoring PeeringDB for a while now, and we're extremely grateful because it's their sponsorship that actually keeps the platform alive. If you look at this screen, there are very few Nigerian companies. I see a lot of CEOs here. Kindly understand the power of PeeringDB and the good that the PeeringDB has done to the community and the world at large. Don't be shy and stingy at the same time. Please help us and sponsor PeeringDB. Thank you very much. Any questions, please? Questions? Okay, we have one there.
Okay, Obinna, thank you very much for that presentation. My name is Uche. I'd like you to speak more or speak to the requirements for becoming an admin member. So I asked this question because I'm aware that there are people here who have sent in requests to join the admin committee, but they never heard from that community. They were not even told that they're not qualified. It just goes, it looks as if the request goes into a black hole. So do they expect this request to join the admin committee to be formatted in any particular way? Are there qualifications? Because other than that, I don't know why people would request to join and they don't get any feedback. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Obinna, for your presentation. Aside the fact that I'm listed on the PeeringDB, what other benefits do I stand to benefit as an organization being on the PeeringDB? Thank you.
Okay, one more question, anyone? Okay, great. So the first question about when you apply to join the admin committee and you don't get a response, I will leave Ben to answer that. While I take Clement's question. Clement's questions, rather. So, benefit of joining PeeringDB. When I convince people to join PeeringDB, I try to look at them and as a business and what is easily presentable to them as a value. There are networks that when you want to get them, peer with them, tell them buy capacity from me, buy whatever it is from me, they listen to you. Guess what they do after you've left their presence? They go on PeeringDB to find you. When they find you, they look at where your POPs are located, what services you have and all of that, who are other players within that same environment that do what you do. Imagine when they go on PeeringDB and you're not there, because they trust PeeringDB as a central point of truth about who is who in the interconnect environment. Majority of the big players use PeeringDB as their source of truth. If you're not on PeeringDB, they won't even respond to you. They won't even come back to you. So call that a selfish reason, but we all are here. We all are business, or the business people. The first reason why we're in business is to maximize profit. So if you cannot create the best visibility for your business, for your network, for your data center, I don't know what else is there for you. That is aside. Secondly, PeeringDB also helps you manage, depending on the kind of nature of user that you are, for facility data center operators, for example. If I go on PeeringDB to look at a data center, the first question people ask about data center operators are, how many networks do you have in your data center? Because everyone wants accessibility. I can collocate with you, and I suddenly can't reach anybody. So I want to look at the number of eyeballs you have in your data center. The easiest way to do that is to go on PeeringDB. So I go on PeeringDB, I say, okay, data center A has this number of network providers there. Data center B has this number of service providers there. So where do I want to collocate? Where do I want to use as my primary? Where do I want to use as my secondary? It also helps you say, okay, look, these service providers are here, they're here. Okay, how do I load balance across those service providers, among many other values? So I'll allow Ben to answer the question about when you request to join admin committee and you don't get a response.
Hello. Cool. Thank you for the question. I didn't see where it came from. I'm sometimes slow when people emailed me. The admin committee should reply to you. If they haven't and you've applied or you're interested, please come talk to me. Please come talk to Obinna. We can both get that sorted and get you connected to the right people. So apologies if you've not heard back, but find me now, here today, here tomorrow, and we'll get that moving for you.
So thank you so much, everybody. It was a wonderful session with you guys, and I love presenting to you, apart from instructing you to listen to others. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Obinna. Yes, thank you.